I want to start today by telling a story. Back in the day, a guy and a girl from two different tribes of people got married. At their wedding reception, the groom told a riddle to some guys from the bride's town, and he made a bet with them that they couldn't solve it. So the guys went to the bride and asked a favor from her, saying, "Hey, I know y'all just got married, but we need you to get your guy to give you the answer to this riddle. And then we need you to tell us. And if you don't, we're going to kill you and your parents. Got it?" So the bride begged her husband for the answer, and he gave it to her. She passed the info on to her hometown people. They solved the riddle and they won the bet. The groom was unhappy about this. He lost his temper and he went off and killed a bunch of people and then left town. I'm sure the bride's dad was like, "Wow, that was the worst wedding reception ever." So he assumes the groom is gone for good, so he gave his daughter to be married to someone else. But after a little time passed, the groom came back and he asked his wife's dad, "Hey, where's my wife?" The dad was like, "I thought you were gone, so I gave her to be married to someone else. But why don't you marry her younger sister? I mean, she's more attractive anyway." The groom was like, no. So the groom flips out, rightfully so. He captures a bunch of foxes and he lights their tails on fire. Can someone say animal cruelty? The foxes ran around like their tails are on fire, because they were. And in the process, they burnt down a bunch of vineyards and olive groves in town. Now, here's what's crazy. This is a story in the Bible. It's found in the book of Judges in the Old Testament, chapters 14 and 15. Now, as a kid, I would hear stories like this and from the Bible and think, what does this story from the Bible have to do with my life? Does it teach me to never tell riddles at wedding receptions? Does it teach me not to set animals on fire? What is this even about? See, sometimes there's a disconnect between what we're told about the Bible and what we actually experience when we read it. We're told that the Bible can change us and help us and guide us in life. But when we take the time to read it ourselves, it can sometimes come across as confusing. And how can something confusing change us, help us, or even guide us? Understanding what the Bible is and what it's meant to be helps us to get the Bible in a way that maybe we haven't been able to see before. So let's start back with the basics. There's two halves of the Bible. You have the Old Testament, also known as the Hebrew Scriptures. Then you have the New Testament. The Old Testament is the Jewish Bible, and it is all pre-Jesus. The New Testament includes Jesus' life and the start of the church after Jesus died and came back to life. But within those two parts, there's a lot going on. The Bible is 66 different documents that are all gathered and put together. When we read the Bible without understanding, we're actually reading one of 66 different documents. But we're missing one big important piece of scripture and all that. We're missing context. You see, context matters. It changes how we read everything. So we are going to look at an example of context today. If you've been around church, you've probably heard this verse. It says, "For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength." Philippians chapter 4, verse 13. With no context, this verse could seem like we just stumbled across like a magic genie in the Bible. I can dunk a 10-foot goal through Christ who gives me strength. Or I can pass my Spanish test without studying through Christ who gives me strength. Context helps. This was a letter written by the Apostle Paul to an entire church. See, Paul wrote to them from prison after being arrested for his faith. In this part of the letter, Paul was thanking them for sending him some financial support, and he was acknowledging their kindness. At the same time, he assured them that they didn't need to feel obligated to send more money. Paul let them know he'll be okay whether he has a little or a lot. So this scripture here is really about contentment. Paul is letting them know that he has figured out how to be peaceful and content with his life, whether life is going good or bad. But you have to ask and wonder, how can Paul find contentment even when he writes from prison? For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. See, Paul was dependent on Jesus. His close relationship with Jesus gave him the power and strength to persevere and find peace, even when things were tough. So the point isn't so much we can win this game because God is on our side. It's more like because of Jesus, we can be okay whether we have a lot of money or a little, whether life is going our way or not. We can turn our attention away from our circumstances and onto Jesus. Because of that, we can find peace through him. Context creates clarity. Again, context creates clarity. The next time you come across a verse that you don't understand, ask yourself these questions. Who wrote it, and who was this written to? See, sometimes a passage doesn't make sense to us because we don't understand who the audience is. Start by figuring out who the audience is. Another one to ask is, why was this written down? See, in this particular passage, Philippians was written to remind a group of people that they were loved by God and to encourage them to keep following Jesus. When you can figure out the why, it can make what was written more easily understood. Guys, the Bible has the ability to change our lives, but sometimes getting to the part that can be life-changing takes more than just closing our eyes, pointing, opening to a page, and reading the first words that we see. That's why context creates clarity, and clarity helps us discover why what was written down and how it's helpful to our lives right now. If you need more help and clarity, you can reach out to us. We as your student pastors, Kaylee, myself, and your small group leaders are always a resource for you to come to. We love you guys, and we will see you soon.